We'll begin the Tuolumne County Transit Agency meeting. This would be the opportunity for the public to speak on any item not on the printed agenda. Seeing now, we're going to move to the consent calendar. What am I doing? Item 2, approval of the February 13, 2019 meeting minutes.
Move on to consent.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Regular agenda, item 3.
Can we go back and ask for public comment on the consent agenda?
You can just whisper to me and I'll ask. Any public comment on the minutes? Thank you. Okay. Just whisper to me, guys. Pick it. It's okay. Go back. All right, regular agenda, item 3. Reassignment of marketing contract with Cole Prisabella to 2 subcontractors, Utilitarian Design and Catalyst Creatives, who have been working on TCTC TCTA projects through Cole Video.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to need to pull that item. There was a mistake in that it refers to a rate sheet as Exhibit B, and it's not included with your packet. I want to make sure you have all the information necessary.
Are we going to pull it till later, or just
We're
pull it
going
for
to pull it
today?
and bring it back next month.
All right, thank you.
That's
All right.
not good. That's not going to delay any projects you have going. 'Cause do we need to do something today? Can we do something today to not do that?
If you wanted to approve it and have me report back on the rate sheet, I suppose we could do that, but it's not included in your packet. I don't have it with me at the moment.
Can we approve it on the,
With a pending rate sheet or something?
on the idea that that rate sheet will be added at a later point?
I think we can do that.
I'm just concerned that you'd lose a month's worth of service that you may need.
Yeah, and we were planning on shooting a commercial next week, so it's a bit of an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to give us the background so we can move forward
Sure.
on it?
As you know, we have an existing agreement with Cole Video. Cole Video has done excellent marketing work for us over the last few years. We like to think that we helped him get started in the business successfully. Part of helping out a new guy and new young entrepreneur, and he's been very successful. But he's decided to move on with his career in a different direction, I think in financial services. And he's let us know that he would like to terminate his involvement in our contract. And in discussing it with legal counsel, there is an opportunity within the existing contract to assign it to others. In this case, it's Utilitarian Design with Zach Calbert and Creative Catalyst, Bobby Bankston. And we've worked with them in the past as subs with working under Cole's direction. And we're very comfortable working with them. Catalyst Creative does a lot of the social marketing media for us, whereas Utilitarian Designs tend to do brochures and schedules and print work and that sort of stuff, as well as some video work for us. So we do have scopes of work attached to this agreement and an assignment agreement, and all parties are in support of this agreement, and we'd recommend approval of it. And I do, again, apologize for not having the rate sheet attached.
Is the rate sheet for both or one?
There's a separate one for each sub.
Do you have the figures or?
I know that we have the figures for Creative Designs, and it was less than maybe what we would otherwise have been paying with Cole involved, because Cole kind of took like a 10% oversight. In Utilitarian Design, I don't recall if we have a rate sheet on that, which will make sure that it does not exceed the rates that we were paying Cole previously on a per-hour basis. Generally, what we do on these agreements is we issue task orders. In other words, we say we need brochures for our trip program, which is one of the things we actually need soon. Mm-hmm. And Utilitarian Design in this case would give us a cost to do the design and then work with us to make sure all the right information's in there, and then run maybe 2,000 copies and fold it and all those kinds of things. And they give us a cost, and then we issue a task order under the agreement. And then he begins the work. So we always have kind of that checking in process along the way to make sure whatever we're asking him to do is a reasonable dollar amount. But we like to have those rates on an hourly basis to kind of lock them into the hourly rate. And again, we do have one for Ms. Bankston. We can make sure the utilitarian design does not exceed what we've already in our existing contract for rate sheet for coal,
Cool. Works for me.
if you're comfortable with that.
Any other questions, comments? Any public comment? Okay,
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and move on approving so I got to find the right wording here. Move to approve the reassignment of the marketing contract with Culper Isabella to the two subcontractors, Utilitarian Design and Catalyst Creatives, and provided that rate sheet is provided that does not exceed the existing contract.
Second.
got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, presentation of the 2018-19 mid-year transit performance report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have Tyler go over the mid-year transit report, and then I may have some comments at the end of his presentation.
Excellent, thank you. So two quick items here. The first is that I gave you a stapled additional pair of sheets. The first is the same graphs and charts that are in the report, only these ones are in color, so you can clearly delineate what the percentages are. And then the second one is the charts that are referenced later in the report, but aren't actually in there. And those are also available in the back if anyone from the public would like to take a look at those on our college ridership. So with that, I'll jump into the report here. It's a mixed bag of positive inputs and areas that we'll continue to have to, really attack as far as making improvements. But it's nice to be able to check in with you, not only monthly, but then biannually to give you a more in-depth report. So just a few things that we'll go over here. A reminder that, there's the 5 major criteria that we look at when we're looking at the efficiency and the effectiveness of the program. And so you'll see these on page 2 and then reflected in the graphs that we'll go over here shortly. We thought we'd touch base with you on our transit center, which has been open now for a year and a half. And we're pleased to report that, it's operating extremely well. We get a lot of really positive feedback from riders. Hey, it's great having, a warm place to sit. It's great having the restrooms. It's great having the Wi-Fi. We notice people locking up their little motorbikes and other bikes at the transit center, and folks, hanging out while they're waiting for the bus. So it's been, I think, a real critical piece that the system's been missing, and we're excited to have that operational. I'd also like to report that, one thing that we heard, just from a negative perspective was, it's just a matter of time until things start to get damaged and folks, mistreat the facility. And to this point, we have not had any graffiti that we've had to deal with or any other kind of negative inputs as far as folks damaging or destroying the facility. So we're happy to report that. We did have, with this winter's storms and the campus beginning to fill up out there, of course, we've got ourselves and the new jail that's being built. And then at the end of January, the court started in on their project. Tough timing, of course, as we know, with what happened in February. So one side of the building, as you're looking at it facing, south on the right-hand side, where we've got the condensers and landscaping, did get flooded. The contractor for the court site has been really diligent in visiting and revisiting the best practices for stormwater control. And we did have to spend some time kind of unplugging some of the big 6-inch drain outlets that are in those planters and sandbagging and otherwise just making sure that the water, didn't make its way into the building. So we're happy to report, though, that you know, we've got some better weather here, and things have subsided. And at this point, the contractor, I think, has got an appropriate amount of stormwater capture out there that you know, with these next storms that are coming or projected to come in the next couple of weeks, we should be fine. So that's the transit center. As you can see here, we give you a quick breakdown of you know, who our overall ridership is, and as you can see, you know, really 2/3 of our ridership are senior or folks with a disability, and that's been pretty consistent over the years. And then the rest of the ridership is made up of students and just our everyday riders. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of who it is that's on the system. And then we kind of run down and break down kind of route by route how we're doing. As you can see with Route 1, it has always been, you know, the real hub of the system. It's got the best fare box recovery ratio, and it really has, you know, kind of the most urban operating conditions, and so it does well. You've got a lot of folks who are getting to a lot of destinations on that route. You also note here we've asterisked the on-time performance, which is down to 60%. That hasn't escaped our notice, and I think what you've got in there is a combination of factors of you know, some winter weather, certainly with delays due to, you know, snow and rain. We have switched out, you know, what was probably a driver who was with us for 10 years, and nobody loaded and unloaded, you know, folks in a mobility device as fast as this gentleman. And so that, you know, when you get that kind of comfort with a route and day in and day out, you know, it's tough to step in and you know, perform in the same way. And so we're coming up to speed in some ways there. We've also had, and this happens to us from time to time, but like kind of a spike in activity at some of our on-demand stops. And you'll notice over the years, you know, one year a stop is on demand, and the next year it's a scheduled route stop, and it can be really tricky for us just based on who happens to be riding, who happens to be living at some of these facilities at any given time. So that's a long way of saying we are keeping a really close eye on this number. We're going to be doing some ride-alongs ourselves. We're doing a real fine-tooth review from the driver and transit management perspective of, you know, each individual stop, where we're at, why we're behind, so we can really get to the bottom of Route 1. Moving on, routes 2 through 5, which are the remaining routes, as you can see, are all struggling as far as overall fare box recovery. Transit, just kind of in general, nationwide, is off, and nobody has quite figured out, put their finger exactly on, you know, why that's the case yet. Or speaking earlier, even some of the big, you know, major urban areas, LA Metro, San Diego, San Francisco Bay Area, numbers are just off, and it's, you know, likely a combination of factors, including, you know, some of the new options that are out there. But we will be, and I'll get back to this at the end of the report, you know, kind of taking a much deeper look at what's going on as part of 2 upcoming planning processes, which we'll touch base on. Dial-A-Ride, on the other hand, which is our kind of origin to destination service that's, you know, folks have to qualify for. It's a little bit more expensive, but it goes to their home, picks them up, and then drops them off, you know, wherever they're going. Is doing well, or at least, you know, is operating, you know, more on par with what it's done historically. You can see our overall fixed route ridership here, comparing this year to years past, and just demonstrating that, again, our numbers, despite all of our efforts with additional advertising and running some commercials and social media efforts, we continue to, you know, need to bolster those numbers. Overall, you can see our fixed route and dial-a-ride recovery ratios in the combined service still meet the state thresholds. Rural operators need to reach that 10%. And we have just noted that, our advertising sales program has been extremely effective, and you can use local dollars, locally generated dollars, to supplement your fare box recovery ratio. And we have done that to make sure that that we meet those minimum thresholds. As you know, we offer a number of premium services. The Dodge Ski Bus numbers are not here yet. This report is through December, but I can just give you a sneak peek. It has been a good year. The mountain opened earlier than it's opened maybe the entire time I've been here, the last 7 or 8 years, so that was encouraging. And we've had snow through all the key periods: Christmas, Martin Luther King holiday, President's Day holiday, and so we anticipate coming back with the year and showing some strong numbers and ridership there.
Still going? Or
Still going, yeah, thank you. That'll run through the end of March, and then we'll evaluate where we're at as far as how late Dodge is going to open and
going to stay open, yeah.
communicate with those.
Was there any major shutdown during the storms, or did that hit at the wrong time or the best time? Or
We did have one weekend where we were unable. Actually State Route 108 had closed completely, and we just made a call based on what the county was doing with the Office of Emergency Services, and recommending that employees and others avoid traveling to work. We did cancel one weekend day, and then 2 days during the week. One day completely, and the other day we just had a late start, just to try and keep those roads
Sure.
at a minimum as far as additional impacts. So, so yeah, the February storms did impact our overall services. The Yosemite bus will begin service in May of this year. That has been a real positive service for us, and we anticipate for that to continue. Last year, we started 2 new services, the Pinecrest service and the Tuolumne Adventure Trolley, both funded through the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, which are greenhouse gas dollars that are dedicated just to kind of expanding and enhancing transit services. Both of those kind of got off to a really tough start. I think, as we look back, the Pinecrest service, that opening weekend of Memorial Day, it was cold and wet. And so, the campgrounds were empty on that first weekend when we went up there. It was, it was not a typical kind of beginning of summer holiday weekend. And then soon thereafter, we had the smoke impacts from all the fires. Actually ended up canceling service on a number of weekends because the visibility and the air quality was so poor. So we're really excited for this upcoming year, working with the Visitors Bureau. We've got all our materials produced. We've been working on promotional videos for both services, and some key meetings with not only our lodging operators and other businesses, but also getting the word out to our, ridership that, those services will be up and running. Quick rundown on our special event services, which we offer for large community events that, typically have traffic and congestion impacts. And you can see those for the most part, with the exception of the Groveland 49er Festival, continue to be pretty efficient services. And then another new program that we started in partnership with the College Foundation and the student body was the free rides for enrolled college students. And you can see here routes 3 and 4 kind of serve the college directly, and you can see some of that spike in ridership. Now that is a little bit deceptive, mostly because we kind of see a similar spike every year. And so if you switch over to the other side where it says fixed route, average college students per day, please cross out day, that should read per month. But you can see the 2018, 2019 numbers. We have seen about a 1% uptick in our overall student ridership. So that's positive. Although, we will continue to work with the college and the student body to spread the word about the program and hopefully continue to see increased ridership with the students there.
Yeah, I think the best way for that to be successful is to get the college to kind of coordinate some of their class timings to fit the schedule, the bus schedule. Because, if you can get there, but you have to wait 3 hours to be able to get home, people will tend not to do it. If you can get there on time and leave at a reasonable time, it's much better. And that, of course, that's up to the college, but,
Yeah, we do our best to coordinate, certainly with the beginning of classes in the morning. And obviously we end before the final class is due in the evening. But,
Right.
Past years have showed kind of light ridership during that time period. But for the students who, are maybe out there for a class or two, you're right, they can be in a situation where, they're out of class, but maybe have an hour and a half or longer before they can catch that next bus. So just rounding the report out, some of the things I mentioned earlier, just to really try to get the word out, the commercials, the social media, the advertising sales programs have all been positive. We'll continue doing those. In conclusion, we're just now, next month, we'll be bringing you contracts to consider for the coordinated plan and the short-range transit plan. So those will be an opportunity for this board and your staff to really take a deep dive, look at transit, to look statewide, nationwide, and say, is anybody, doing something really different, and how's it working, and can we be doing something different in our system that will really generate an improvement? And so we'll go through that process together and get direction on, what you want us to do. So, thank you.
Okay, and just to wrap it up a little bit, it's a tough situation right now in public transit. We have cut hours on our service, trimming around at the edges in the areas of the service that are least productive over the last 2 years, as you well know. We're pretty much at the floor of what we have guaranteed our operator store in terms of hours before. If we make any more cuts, we have to renegotiate a rate so that they can cover all their overhead. So we got 2 years left on the contract. We'll try some new things that come out of our short-range transit plan, and then we may look at more significant changes in the next contract 2 years from now. We'll be going to, one of us will be down at the next CALAC conference. That's a conference of rural operators. A lot of their sessions are focused on generating ridership. Maybe we'll learn a few things there. We always try to learn from others where we can. But, transit's tough right now, and we think that part of it is with the strong economy, there's a lot more people with cars. I think that's kind of what LA has found, or they believe anyways. There's so many more people with cars per capita that there's just less need to ride on public transit, and fuel prices are way down. We know that when the economy was strong in 2007 before it tanked, but the fuel prices were up about $4.25 a gallon, and even higher for diesel, we had our best ridership ever, So there is a relationship in fuel prices and what the economy's doing and how our ridership is. So we hate to cut too much so that if that ridership comes back, they have some core system to ride. Because if you cut too much, you're just hurting your existing ridership at some point. So, but it is a way to bring those ratios in line. I will also say that we are going to participate, I think, on Friday with the California Transit Association, who's been asked by the Senate Transportation Committee to look at the Transportation Development Act, which is the act that governs how we run transit in California. And they're looking at different performance measures and trying to deal with, these kinds of broad issues on a statewide basis and maybe how legislation needs to change to better accommodate the changing environment for transit. One of the things that I think we're likely to see is less emphasis on how much revenue you're generating, but perhaps tying more into CEQA with vehicle miles traveled reduction. And some of those environmental objectives, I think, are likely to work their way into our performance measures. So stay tuned. Any questions?
Your dial-a ride seemed to do better on fare bucks recovery, but it charges more.
Yes. I think that's reflective of our senior population.
And the other element is, the other one is $1?
Dial rides, $3, which we're
$3.
allowed to pay double what the normal rate is for fixed route, which is about $1.50. We have
$1.50.
discounted rates, I think, down to $1. And you'll see another item on the low-carbon transit on the TCTC side. We are looking at perhaps incorporating in some sort of additional subsidies to, like a free ride program. And we'll talk about that more, but as a way of generating more ridership. But we'll talk more on that item when it comes up.
I did have a question. Where are those videos playing? You talked about some videos, and I was curious where somebody out there could find them.
Sure, on YouTube, of course, and then Tuolumne County Transit. Most of them are on our website, and then the commercials are playing in a targeted kind of Sonora region, so you have to, Comcast and other platforms as far as, mobile
Any
users.
chance of playing some of them on Facebook?
Yes, they're all on Facebook as well, as far
They are,
as,
okay.
yes, thank you for.
Older populations seem to stay on Facebook or nibbles at it, and the younger ones went to Instagram and other platforms.
That's what we're hearing, yeah.
Yeah, always trying to figure them out.
Yeah, Bobby Bankston does a lot of our social media stuff for us, although we could probably do a better job if we were more engaged. Him and I are not Facebook users ever, so it's kind of maybe you've used it a couple times work-related, but we're not big Facebook users.
No, that's fine. I get it. And it can eat up a lot of time when you have other things you need to do too.
Just a few.
Just a few. All right, any action on this or?
Public first.
Okay, any public comment?
Well, it might be helpful that Bobby Bankston now has an office just across the street. So that might be good. And I always think we should have more riders. So how many of you have taken transit to come down to the county building? Just something to think about. And,
Today or ever?
well, not today, but let's just say in the recent,
Yeah, I've taken it for
yeah.
a Christmas parade.
but
Well,
we can all set an example.
I can walk to here, so.
I know. Well, and sometimes I want to take it and
And
it just,
have.
I don't want to spend 3 hours
But-
for something that would
Then-
take me 20
And
minutes.
take the bus to Columbia or Jamestown. They're in my district. We'll appreciate your
Okay.
investment in our local economy.
And then Kathy has offered to do so many things, especially with some of these special event buses, of adding something to it to make them more fun, or have little gift bags from some of the merchants. And so maybe we could do something to make getting on the transit for some of these events, or like the free trolley during the summer months, to kind of make them more fun and engage them more in the community.
Thank you, Carol.
I could probably respond to that by saying that Tyler and I have been talking in the last week about having some more engaging, like, prizes each week drawn, some small prize, movie tickets, where each time you get on, you can fill out. But using our social media platform through Bobby to really sell that and see if we can't generate additional ridership in a fun way. So we were thinking also of having Bobby come out maybe in the next month or two, maybe come out every 6 months, twice a year, to kind of give an input on what is going on with our social media outreach efforts and trying to engage the public in our ridership. So stay tuned.
Hey, keep us posted.
Yep.
All right, looks like we're at reports.
I'll save my reports to the TCTC side. Tyler, do you have anything you want to add?
Same for you, Gregoria? Yes. Okay. All right, we will conclude the Tuolumne County Transit Agency meeting. Give us a minute to switch gears.
Do we have an extra packet? Because Connie's come, and she can sit in for Matt. Huh? She said there wasn't one back there. Well, I didn't know until until the beginning of the meeting.
So, I did not pick it up, so it's probably still there.
Sure, I've read mine, so you can share.
Ryan thinks he might have one.
We just finished the transit, we're just starting the council.
Seeing if we can rustle one up.
Did you get one?
Seeing if we can rustle one up.
I got one. Should be in my box.
They think they have one, they just gotta find it,
Yeah.
locate it.
If not, she can,
We'll give it
if not, she can read off of mine. Okay. Hate to print up a whole thing.
Can't you two just share?
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Just don't walk off with it, that's John's.
I'm ready.
All right, we'll convene the Tuolumne County Transportation Council meeting. This will be the opportunity for oral communications to allow the public to speak on any item not on the printed agenda.
Did, since Mr. Bindwa is here, Bajwa is here, did you want to, this would be the opportunity if you had something to say.
Thank you, Jim. I was going to introduce Arvinder. Arvinder's been with the district for a long time. He's our project manager on the Peaceful Oak Interchange. At least he used to be. He's been promoted up to the Deputy Director of Operations and Maintenance. Is that correct?
Oh, just the traffic operations.
Traffic Operations, okay. And he's been very helpful, so welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and board members. I'm glad to be here. Like Darren mentioned, I've been in District 10, Stockton, over 20 years, and been all over the departments. And so I was project manager previously on Peaceful Oaks Interchange, and so that's what I believe you're referring to. And I've done quite a bit of projects in Tuolumne County as project engineer as well. So today we had a meeting. I came to report about I had a meeting with Darren day for yesterday, and we went over the list of safety projects. I believe Darren, we will probably go over that, but we kind of focused more on, after the discussion on the list of investigations we're going to investigate on the Hearst Ranch, those couple of driveways there next to each other. We're going to reevaluate and discuss and actually investigate those that stretch of highway. And in addition, it was brought to our attention was from Groveland to Yosemite entrance. There's a report about tourists driving on the wrong direction, so not on the left side. So we're going to be investigating that whole stretch from Groveland to Yosemite.
That's been going on for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I found that out yesterday. that, so we're gonna investigate and see what we can do, as far as striping or signage or anything else we can do as part of improvement.
That would be nice. I asked for signs years ago when I was Highway Patrol Commander up here, and they said there were not any standard signs that would solve the problem. Pretty much they were telling me to go away. But the issue continues, as we see.
So people drift? Is that what happens? They drift?
No, they drive on the wrong side of the road.
No, what they do is when they come from Europe or wherever, Australia, New Zealand, they land at San Francisco and they rent a car. That's what I'm just repeating what Darren said. I hope
Right.
I will be right on
I'll let
track.
you know if you
And
miss
they come driveway all the way past Modesto, actually past Manteca, Escalon, and come over past Oakdale and come over and stop at Groveland, stretch legs, have some refreshment, and get back. And it seems like there's no car on that side.
Right.
They're gonna go. It's a natural
For them,
mindset that you're gonna go to your normal driving direction, and they go on left side, and then they get in head-on collision. And that's what I believe, Darren. You can
Yeah,
correct me
and
if I'm wrong.
That's kind of the pattern we've
Yeah.
seen anecdotally, and, it seems to be one, maybe fatal accidents, very tragic every year, maybe 2 a year. Some years there are none. So the pattern is very random, and it's hard to really isolate it as to one location. So I think to kind of comment, Mike, on the sign, the district director himself pointed out a sign that he thinks would be appropriate
Oh,
for
good.
that. So I think we can get some movement there.
Actually, the area is from Priest Grade all the way east.
Yeah.
Pre-straight, you mean the bottom? Okay.
The top,
Oh, from the top?
the top.
Yeah,
from the
that's
top east.
what, from the top
Okay.
all the way past Buck Meadow, actually Groveland, Buck Meadows.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And perhaps even some pavement markings of the arrows as well.
Yeah, I believe that's what
Something
you
about that
requested,
area.
so we'll look into it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I was just going to mention the Hearst Ranch issue, and that is a really dangerous area. That happens to be in my district. Both from the standpoint of what we really need there is a kind of a combination protected left turn pocket and an acceleration lane coming out, because it's a real issue. The turn in there, if you're going out of town towards Stan County, you've just gone through an acceleration zone up to 55 miles an hour, and somebody stops right in front of you to make a left turn. There's a lot of fender benders there, people accelerating and following too close and stuff like that. But it's equally difficult if you're coming out of there trying to turn left to go down towards Stan County, because there's just a never-ending stream of traffic on certain times of the day where it would really be useful if we could get they could pull out into that thing and then have a short, it wouldn't take much, short acceleration lane as well.
Okay.
So if we could just widen that to 3 lanes, probably not more than a couple hundred yards, I think it'd be a real safety enhancement on that road.
Okay, yeah, that's what we plan to do, investigate
Okay.
in that focused area.
And Joe Hurst would love you for it.
Carl, I'm aware that he had some plans drawn up, working with Galen Greitz on that, and
Yeah.
we hope to revisit those plans with Galen as well.
Yeah, the other thing is there's a potential for a small, I don't want, it's not it's a development project, but it's not like a housing development. It's a small commercial project on the other side of the road from Hearst Ranch, so that would help as well, so. Thank you.
There's just one other thing that I would report as far as our meeting went. Caltrans did hear our concerns about some of the pedestrians that have been hit on Stockton Road, particularly west of the city, and they've offered to do a walkthrough with that. We are doing a complete street study of Highway 49, or congested corridor study is a better way of putting it. And more than just having planners, we're going to maybe get a traffic engineer or so out there walking with us, looking for short-term solutions.
looking for solutions. I mean, a lot of that is because it's so dark in there. I'm just wondering if there's a way we can look at getting some more lighting in that section of the highway. Because
We'll look at all those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sure.
Well, there is a street light right there at the crosswalk.
Not where, well, in some places, but there's places where the bike guy came across over down by Summers Flooring Center. There's not really much light there.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any other public comment?
But they're not going to put up a street.
All right, consent calendar.
Move on the consent calendar.
Item 2, approval of the February 13, 2019 meeting minutes, and item 3, approval of the Tuolumne County MOU for trails. Any public comment before you beat me to that? Any public comment?
I will just say that a lot of people have been asking me when this trail behind the library is going to start, and people are so excited.
Thank you.
Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I heard you were saying about ready to start breaking ground out there in the next week. Is that right?
Yeah, March 18th, Monday, March 18th, I think. Monday, March 18th, if everything goes all right.
We need to get that FM voice out there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, did I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move on the
move it.
consent calendar.
Okay, second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Regular agenda, item 4, adopt resolution number 594-19, approving fiscal year 18-19 unmet transit needs findings report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have Tyler go over the unmet transit needs report.
Thank you. So this is an annual process we go through each year, and it basically involves reaching out to our ridership and the community and just asking, are there unmet needs in the community? With that said, every year this board adopts a criteria of what it means to be an unmet transit needs, and there are a number of things that each request goes through as far as an evaluation. You know, what's the system-wide impact? Would we have the, a 10% fare box recovery ratio? These types of questions. And so, we went through that process for this last year here. We had a public hearing in this room back in December. We took all of the needs to the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council, which weighs in on each of the needs and really does an incredible job of helping to get the word out about the process that we're going through, and then to kind of funnel requests back into us. But typically, we don't receive very many requests, or at least we haven't over the last few years, despite kind of having, a broad process of outreach. So you can see here for this year, the requests and the findings that we received and that we made, and that we are bringing to you for your consideration today. 6 overall requests, and most of them involve kind of extending our services out into more rural areas. And as we kind of covered, to some degree in the mid-year performance report, those are really hard areas to serve. I mean, typically when you get into kind of single-family residential that's spread out, whether it's, North Tuolumne Road, Stent, Algerine, Big Hill Road, just the number of passengers we get for the number of road miles that we, expend are minimal and would, ultimately drive that fare box recovery ratio down. So for the most part, the findings are, yes, it's an unmet need, but it's at this point with our limited budget, not reasonable to meet. Now, these are, of course, requests that are always folded into processes like the coordinated plan and the short-range transit plan, requests that we continue to look at throughout the year. And so in some cases, we've made a recommendation that maybe the new trip program, the policies that we've adopted recently that kind of extend service to a larger group and allow for more movements may be eligible. And so we'll be reaching out to those folks and letting them know about TRIP, encourage them to take advantage of that program if they can. But by and large, we did not have any unmet transit needs that were found to be reasonable to meet. All that goes into the report that you have and then gets submitted to Caltrans Division of Mass Transportation and Rail. They look it over and you know, sign off on it for that year. And then we, again, it's an iterative process, so we'll do this again next year. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I have one. Do you ever get requests for Sunday service?
Not very often. I mean, we do get requests for kind of generic kind of weekend service occasionally, but I think primarily it's like Saturday, hey, we'd love to go and do this or get to that destination. And, you know, to some degree, you know, we may partially scratch that with some of our weekend services that, you know, through the Adventure Trolley and the Pinecrest service. But for the most part, just as a general rule of thumb, you know, as you move past Monday through Friday, you know, you lose half your ridership on Saturday and then half again on Sunday, which is always a tough day. But occasionally we will get a request for a Sunday.
Okay.
Mr. Chair. Just kind of off the number 6 bus service to Big Hill Road. I understand that's a very rural area, but if you look at some of the more densely populated areas, like Crystal Falls, that area where there are a lot of people who work downtown and potentially could ride the bus, but you know, if you look at your ridership, it's really, you know, as you said, 2/3 are either disabled or older. And so, I mean, have you tried to have bus service in Crystal Falls or those types of, you know, by Tuolumne County standards, densely populated areas in the past, and what kind of results did you see?
I'll take a quick stab at it, and then if Darren wants to add to it. But yeah, we historically have had a Route 6. Right now, we just have routes 1 through 5, and Route 6 serve the Crystal Falls, Sonora Meadows, Phoenix Lake Estates zone, or at least within, you know, 3/4 of a mile of that main kind of artery going through, and then coming out in the greater kind of Soulsbyville area there. And historically, it has not done well. So what we've kind of done now, and this is still in place, is we have a general public dial ride that serves that same zone, which is like our Saturday service dial ride, only operates Monday through Friday, allowing folks to make a request to, you know, to get picked up. Now, it still operates within that 3/4 of a mile of, you know, the route that did go through there, so it's not making its way up to Big Hill and some of the further reaches. So that's kind of been our interim.
So if you're within the historic Route 6 zone, you can use dial ride services without any other qualifiers?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And do you find that that's utilized very much, or?
Still pretty lightly used.
Pretty
I mean, we, you know, we've got a handful of folks each week that, you know, certainly rely on the service, but it's a small number.
The only thing I can add to that is Tyler relates to the service that we've had in the last 5 years. But going back maybe further, 10 years or 15 years, we had a service in the Crystal Falls area that we had to cancel due to lack of ridership. So we've tried it a couple different times and just haven't been able to make it financially work out.
We can't get that urban working group to come in like a metro station every day.
Right. It's kind of that dichotomy we sometimes talk about, the transit-dependent folks versus choice riders. And people that have cars, or at least a car or two in a family, tend to be choice riders. they choose to drive it or they choose to ride transit. We don't do very good with choice riders. The people that are choice riders typically will do well in riding, and when you have a couple other elements like really high fuel prices or a commute pattern with heavy traffic congestion where it just gets to be a real grind and they'd rather just be sitting on the bus where they can do some reading or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Can we have high-speed rail from Crystal Falls downtown?
Well, might be able to try low-speed rail.
Low-speed rail.
We'll call it the tube.
My grandmother used to commute from the Sosbyville to high school down here in Sonora on the low-speed rail every day, back in the early turn of the century.
All right, any other questions? Public comment?
No, I don't. I'm going to kind of add on to Ryan a little bit because there were a lot of people that were upset when Route 6 was eliminated because they used that. And there were some high school teachers and some Columbia College teachers that, one of my friends, I think she used it for 10 or 11 years to go to work every day. And then that got eliminated. And she liked it because you could get on Route 6 and you'd end up down here at Courthouse Park. But now you have to go to the junction, then you have to go to the transit center. And she said, you know, I can drive so much faster. I don't want to do all that. So, and then I understand what you're saying, and I thought it was good to put the trip stuff in. But it looks so crappy when you have a report and says, here's all these people that wrote in their unmet transit needs. And every single response is like, well, too bad, so sad. I just thought that looked terrible.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on item 4.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Item 5, discussion and comment on the Tuolumne County Transportation Council draft overall work program for fiscal year 19 and 20.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I need to give acknowledgement to Laura. She prepares the overall work program for the last 3 years for us. The overall work program is an important document in what we do each year. It really sets our budget for and recognizes all the different revenues that we have, be it rural planning assistance funds, project programming and monitoring funds, local transportation funds, all the different funds and grants that we get. And then we show how we're going to expend those funds on staff work, consultant efforts, and it identifies all the different work activities that we have lined up for the year. And we prepare the draft each year, and we submit it to you for your review. And then with your input, we submit it to Caltrans. I think actually this has already been submitted to Caltrans to meet our deadlines. And around about late April, we'll get some comments back from Caltrans, and any comments we hear from you today, we'll incorporate into the final document and bring the document back in probably May is when we usually bring it back for a final adoption, and that feeds into our TCTC budget for the year and kind of sets us up how we're going to do things. We do have at the back end of the OWP a sheet that lists all of our things that we do. That kind of fits with what Caltrans likes to see. And we also note which ones are carryover, which ones are just required items that we do each year as a regional transportation planning agency or required under the law. And then what are the discretionary items? Again, this is an opportunity for you to tell us if there's other work activities that we should be doing. But I'm going to kind of hit some highlights of what we anticipate. We do anticipate continuing on our zero-emission vehicle planning, as well as we'll begin to get into some implementation next year of electric vehicles and more chargers in the corridor, or in our region, I should say. We're also, we have an active transportation program update. We got a grant approved for that. We're getting ready to select a consultant on that. As far as local streets and roads go, we believe we'll be wrapping up our complete streets. It's a complete streets grant, but it's our congested corridor for Highway 49 through Sonora. We think that it's going to show a need for a north-south connector to begin around Sonora. And we've had some money in our budget combined with some city contributions to initiate kind of a stage one project initiation for a north-south connector, otherwise known as Greenlee Road Extension. So we'll be getting, I suspect we'll be starting that effort up next year. We had it in this year's work program, but it got delayed to accommodate the complete corridor plan that Caltrans is working on. Yeah, again, this is for those, there's got some new board members here. If Caltrans recommends, for instance, Greenlee Road Extension as a viable and best alternative to improve traffic congestion in downtown Sonora, they'll pay for 100% of construction. We have to pay for preliminary engineering and some other costs, environmental. So we've got some money to kind of start that effort up. Be a big, tall order, and certainly take an awful lot of cooperation among the city and the county to pull it off, if we're ever going to get it done. I also want to note, I did bring in.
Darren?
Yes, sir.
Just pardon the interruption. When you say they'll pay for the construction, does that include land acquisition?
You know, I'm not clear on that. It's one of those things I'm going to have to really delve into to see what all the pieces are that they'll pay for.
Because that's not going to be a small amount of money.
No, that won't
No,
be.
it won't be.
Right away.
And I think that what we're going to see, Carl, just to elaborate a little bit on the project initiation phase, is really kind of lay out, relook at some of the alignments, interacting with the public, identifying what the environmental issues might be, as well as some preliminary cost estimates for the different phases, and maybe create a funding plan to accomplish it. So it's a lot of preliminary work in the project initiation phase. And the next phase after that, if the board and city and the TCTC all agree to move forward with the project, would be the environmental document would begin at that point. So I also want to mention, every 2 years, we engage with the Community Resource Agency, looking at all of our accident data. I don't know how much you guys know about it, but we do have a great accident record management system. It's what I use to go to Caltrans and ask for projects, and I say, look at the map. It's got a lot of accidents in that location, and we have a weighted criteria for identifying high-priority locations. And last time, we think we sent 15 project recommendations to them, and I'd say about 2/3 of them are resulting in some sort of effort on Caltrans' part. So it works very well. We're going to go ahead and do that again. It's time. We do it every 2 years, as I said. And usually I do it with Duke, so I'll be looking for a partner on the county side this time.
You got one.
I'm sure I do. Then we'll also be looking at, again, we'll look at accident hotspots on both county roads and city roads. We're going to be finishing up our 49 congested corridor plan with Caltrans. We also have an active transportation plan. We got a grant for that, and we have a consultant on board. This is a plan to figure out what are our priorities and what's our long-term objectives for bicycle and pedestrian ways in Tuolumne County, and the best use of our funds and priority projects. Carl, I'm aware of your idea of the triangle that's been worked into our scope of work.
Okay.
So that's a big item we'll be working on. And then there's the SB 743. SB 743 is a change in CEQA requirements that we will evaluate new development impacts on the road system, not by looking at congestion and delay anymore. We'll be looking at the vehicle miles traveled that's produced by the new development. And right now, we got a grant along with some of our local funds to update our modeling to make it more accurate in this, to be used as a tool for this purpose, because it's never been used for this purpose. We're also going for another grant where next year we'll begin to look at what are the vehicle miles traveled generated by different land uses in different locations of the county, what are the thresholds of significance, and get into traffic study guidelines for county and city staff to help move projects through the CEQA process, because this new process begins in 2020 for all of us. So we're marching down this path, and it's very cutting edge for a rural county.
I'll be interested to see the results of that.
So will I. This is
'Cause
kind
I
of one of
can't-
those.
We all will.
This is
can't
one of those
figure
ones
out
where
the-
we're starting down the path and we're not totally sure where we're gonna end up.
You're not sure where the path is.
Yeah, we're gonna cut the path in. And we're not even sure where the destination is. We think we know, but we're not sure. So, it's a new world.
If you don't know your destination, any road can take you there,
I like that. So-
Maybe.
But you're never lost.
and you're never lost.
And watch out for those cliffs.
Yeah.
Right.
And those are kind of the big items we're gonna be working on next year. Again, it's an opportunity, if you guys see something that really needs to be addressed, we can maybe bring something back as a proposal.
Under local streets and roads, you have a J59 concept plan. What's that all about? Is that an effort, hopefully, to get the state to make it Highway 49?
No, that's not what it's about.
Rats.
It's an old one.
J59, as you guys know, it's heavily utilized by trucks and freight movement. We've got some amount of growth out there. It's a kind of interregional corridor. We have some mitigation funds that we've collected from various developments that impact that road. But we recognize that we need to have a plan for better shoulders, where should we have turn lanes, perhaps some passing zones. And this will allow us to begin to identify those things, working with the county, probably hiring a consultant, and then begin to put some costs to those and prioritization of different improvements out there, and perhaps build it into a fee program as well. So that's the plan.
Okay.
You know, if we could bring it up to a certain level and county would, and I think it puts us in a better position to get Caltrans to take it in. Right now, they won't take it in because it's so far away from meeting their design standards.
Long-term project.
It is a long-term planning project, yeah.
But it's also a very important one.
Yeah.
From my perspective, and I don't know if the accident rates support this, but it's probably one of the most dangerous roads we've got in our county, just because there's no place to go.
Yeah.
Someone drifts across the center line, there's nowhere. And I've said it a million times, the speed limit, the functional speed limit on that road is the speed of the bicyclist that's riding, because you can't legally pass a bicyclist on that road anywhere until you get to the county line.
I think it's, it didn't show up in our previous maps as a lot of accidents out there. I think that the improvement that was done has helped. It used to be a very high accident location. It didn't show up as quite that level anymore. We'll see in this next look what the pattern is and if it's gotten worse. I think it kind of is one of those roads I've seen in my my career. Certain roads that are a little bit on the scary side tend to have low accident rates because people are a little bit more cautious.
Well, I'll tell you that the frustration level on that road is easy to increase. I mean, like I said, you can't pass anywhere. It's probably the longest no passing zone that I can remember on a road in this county, other than, well, no, it's even longer than that. So, and people get frustrated on it, and then they do stupid things. So,
And it is notorious for bad passes out there.
oh, I drive that thing
Listening to all the
probably at
people.
least each way, probably at least once a month, and more normally twice a month. And I don't ever drive that thing that I don't see someone do an illegal pass on it, hardly.
Question, Darren. Are you seeing an increase in traffic over the years on J59?
You know, I'm not as close to the daily volumes as I once was. We can look at that. What I can tell you, just generally, our population level's been flat or gone down a little, and we've seen that the local road system, maybe the minor collectors, even some major collectors, have kind of been flat in terms of traffic growth, maybe even decreased slightly. but we're seeing growth on our arterials, mainly the state highways, because the valley, the Bay Area, they're still growing and they're still recreating up here. So that's where we're seeing the growth, and I think that J59 is kind of one of those interregional roads that's going to experience that growth.
I would be surprised if you don't see an increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In just a year, I've seen it out there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a major south way to get to Southern California from out of this county, so.
Yeah.
my personal anecdotal experience is J59, and a lot of it is truck traffic.
Yeah.
For whatever the trucks up here have figured out that you can get to Merced on J59. And it has increased. And those are the folks that tend to be frustrating, because they don't drive as fast as some people want them to. And for good reason. They're being safe, but they frustrate the other drivers out there, so. And that's what, honestly, I think 90% of, well, that's probably way too high, but over half of the traffic accidents are caused by a frustrated driver, one way or the other, or distracted or whatever. But
Another question on the safe bicycle opportunities. Are we looking not just at unmotorized, but also electric bikes in amongst this? I just have this feeling that electric bikes are becoming more and more acceptable, cheaper, and more the norm. So I'm just hoping that we do look at that.
Jim, did you have a specific item you were pointing to, or just a general
No, I was just
comment?
wondering, I just didn't know whether when you said safe bicycle travel, whether it was just specifically push pedal bikes or also electrical assist bikes.
We don't have anything in the work program specifically aimed at electric bikes. I think we do have a grant for a bicycle, a multi-county bicycle plan, and the ATP also deals with that. I don't know electric bikes per se are much of a focus in there. If you'd like, we can certainly add that focus. Are you referring to more some of the scooters, electric scooters, electric bikes that are?
Well, I
that
just
are
had this, you hear about the scooters in the Bay Area. I see electric bikes, been down in Davis quite a bit lately, but electric bikes are becoming more the norm. I know of people that have up here that have got electric bikes now. And I just see it being an issue whether, if we're looking for bike safety among push pedal bikes, that not only we're going to be looking at cars, we may have to be looking at other bikes that can move that much faster because they're electrified or motorized.
I think we can
And-
add it to some of those work efforts.
Yeah, it should be looked at. That's just what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think there's two basic families of electric bikes, if my understanding is right. My wife has one, and it sits in the garage, and it's not going to go
Yeah.
any faster than a really good bicyclist can pedal. But if you're talking about a Harley follow-on with an
Yeah,
electric
no.
motor, they're a vehicle. They're going to have to
Right.
abide by the vehicle,
Right.
well, pedal bikes are a vehicle too, but, I think they're going to be separated into,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm looking more for the lower end ones.
Yeah, like
there's,
the e-bikes like you're talking about you don't need to have a driver's license
right.
and
You can convert
they
your
are-
regular bicycle, put a little 500 kilowatt motor
Yeah.
on it. And
You're
they're
basically
getting
talking about
cheaper and
an
cheaper.
ordinary bicycle that has a motor that helps
Exactly.
you.
I see
get
that
uphill.
as starting to
Yeah,
grow significantly.
yeah, and I've noticed that it's become more of a popular thing as well because the price has gone down significantly, and so
Right.
maybe in more urban areas you see it. They're pretty ubiquitous actually in
Yeah.
urbanized areas.
Exactly.
So it's coming.
So probably bikes needs to have a better description.
We can add that to some of these other work efforts.
Okay, anything else? Any other comments? Any public comment? All right, you got everything you need, Darren?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler, for your previous report, and Laura for all the work you did on this project. Thank you. All right, item 6, adopt resolution number 595-19, authorizing the executive director to sign low-carbon transit operations program certifications and assurances, authorize agent form, and allocation amounts for transit.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is just allowing me to sign documents to receive these funds. We also have to designate the use of these funds, as I mentioned earlier. What we think would be the best use of these funds is trying to find ways to increase the ridership that we have on existing services. One way of doing that is to reduce fares or even have some free rides. We will bring back to you a proposal on how we would do that. There's a lot of issues there to think through. Tentatively, we've kind of brainstormed a little bit that we would work with the human service agencies to look for people that are low income, using as part of an existing program, and get family members and themselves signed up for free rides. We give passes out to those individuals. That'll allow us to also track, who's in those groups that are existing riders that were maybe increasing frequency, but maybe finding new riders as part of that as well, or is what we're hoping for. So again, look for us to bring back a greater detail and approval on how that program gets implemented, but that's our present thinking. We encourage you to go ahead and adopt this, and they'll allow us to receive the funds.
Okay, any questions?
Yes. Does the ridership have to be free, or can it just be a reduced rate?
It can be a reduced rate as well. And we may go that route. We're trying to figure out, and part of our figuring out is reaching out to other agencies that have had these type of programs using these funds and what they've done and how it's worked for them or not.
Because my concern is based upon, we used to give free passes to some people in the community, and then they took those passes and sold them.
Yes.
So I would like to not see that happen again.
Yeah, us too. With the conversation we had, we'll probably come up with some sort of card with a picture identification on it.
Okay, any other comments? Public comment? I'll entertain a motion for item 6.
Move to approve resolution number 595-19.
A second.
And Carl has a second.
Sec.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, consideration of congestion mitigation, air quality, programming priorities, and authorization to exchange funding with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you might recall from some of our previous discussions, and I'll kind of reiterate this because we do have a few new board members, is we used to be non-attainment for air quality for the 1997 ozone standard. That allowed us to collect literally probably over $2 million in congestion mitigation air quality funds. We've used those funds to build park and rides, and we've also are using some of them on the transit stop on Stockton Road that's being proposed right now. And we eventually, they passed a new standard, the 08 standard, which we were in attainment for. And we did not receive any new congestion mitigation air quality funds. But there's been, in every situation, anytime they implement a standard, there are two sides of the issue. The industry sometimes posing legal challenges to it. Other times it's environmental groups or health interest groups challenging it for different reasons. And there's just ongoing court cases. And one of the court cases determined that the 1997 rule was not ever properly rescinded. Therefore, it's in effect. And we are suddenly right back into non-attainment status, and we have a year's worth of funding. It's $495,000, I believe. And we're waiting for that to work itself out. We need to begin to program those funds. But we also are looking at the 2015 standard for air pollution from the EPA, and we're in non-compliance for that. However, it has not been implemented due to court challenges. And we think that that's coming soon, and we may indeed have multiple years of congestion mitigation air quality funds to program. And I've kind of listed out, there's a lot of different programs. I think in here there's an attachment of all the different funding things that are eligible for funding in the program, but I've listed out bullet points of which programs I think kind of meet with what I've heard, both from this board as well as some of the staff. But we're kind of in a zone now that we don't know if we got 1 year's worth of funding of $495,000, which is significant, or 5 years worth of funding to program, which is much more significant. At $2.5 million, we could really do some impactful projects. So what I'm recommending is two things, or actually multiple things. First, because these funds are very difficult to spend, they almost always involve partnerships with other agencies and almost always involve leveraging other funds to do a complete project, that we exchange our funds this year to working with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. We give it to them, they spend it on some eligible project, and we'll do a legal agreement, of course, working with Carlin, to get those funds back in a future year, either next year or the year after that. In the meantime, we'll get some clarity on what our funding is going to be. Is it just a 1 year cycle, or is it multiple years of cycles? Some of those court cases hopefully will work their way through the process. And we'll get some clarity. Also, we are due as an agency we usually do 3 year, every 3 years we do kind of a workshop where we identify what do we want to accomplish as an agency, what are our priorities, we're due for one of those. I think that this would be a great topic of discussion on how to use these funds if we do get 5 years worth of funding. What are our priorities? Is it zero emission vehicles? Is it park and rides? Is it walkways? You know, what are the priorities of the agency? Likewise, we have a fair amount of RSTP funds coming to have a similar discussion on what do we want to spend those things on. I think now I know that the county and city don't have nearly enough money for road maintenance, but they do have significant increases in SB1 funds. Maybe there's a different, instead of giving all the money to road maintenance for RSTP, maybe there's some other things that are important, like putting shoulders of roads in or walkways near schools and things like that, that these funds could then be used to as additive to other projects as opposed to a whole project. That kind of just does one or two big projects and that's it when it's the whole thing. So I think that we need to probably, I'd recommend that we maybe have a workshop in the next month or two to talk about what are our priorities as an agency, and then we can, you can direct staff to kind of work with the city or the county to bring project proposals forward from those agencies with really good scopes of work, because what we find is every time we rush into projects, we don't have really well thought out projects with really good cost estimates. Inevitably, those projects fail or go way up in cost down the road, and then we deal with it from that side. So time is a good thing. The only thing I think I'd recommend that we do is we start kind of an early implementation of our zero emission vehicle implementation program. We are doing a plan where we're advocating the private sector and public fleets to begin to implement zero emission vehicles into their fleets. As if we're going to be kind of a leader in this region on these issues, we think it's a good idea to go ahead and buy an electric vehicle ourselves. Likewise, the city is, Tim Miller has said they'd be interested in electric vehicle, and the county's interested in maybe having two for the community resource agency for planners or engineers, particularly in the case where you don't need four-wheel drive and whatnot. So the program would pay for 15 to 20% of the cost of a new electric vehicle, plug-in electric. It will pay 100% of the cost of putting in chargers in parking lots where appropriate to service those vehicles. So we would recommend setting aside $50,000 for early implementation of the electric vehicle program, and then exchange the remaining amount with MTC, and then allow us to do prioritization of what we want to do as an agency in terms of projects and priorities. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
So you're looking for an action on this?
Yes, I need to.
I have a
I need-
question.
Connie?
I have a
let me
question.
Go over to Connie first.
Okay.
When will you know about if we will, if we will be able to get this money for 5 years?
Yeah, it's predicting how how quickly it's going to be it's working through the courts. And I thought would have had clarity on this a while ago. And I think if I remember right, talking to Alex, he's my air quality guy, keeps tabs on this stuff in the court cases. I think he said it seems like we're about 3 to 6 months out.
And is 50K enough to start chargers?
Yeah, we're only going to use what we call the Phase 2 chargers, are about $5,000 a piece installed. So we'd need 3, one at the city, one at the county, one at the TCTC office. And then, again, it only pays about 15 to 20% of the cost for a vehicle. And looking at it, those vehicles are between about $30,000 and $35,000. So you add it all up, it's less than $50,000.
So the installation is included in the $5,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Carl?
We've actually given ourselves a little cushion there, too, by my estimate.
Ryan?
Well, Connie kind of took the words out of my mouth. Those were both questions I was planning on asking. But yeah, it seems like a lot of these transportation possibilities we've just been discussing over the past, couple of months since I've been here are covered by this funding source. So, whether or not it becomes a 5-year program or a 1-year program is a pretty significant question as to how we decide to proceed. So you mentioned a workshop. I kind of like that idea. I'd like to sit down, with us and kind of work out how maybe 2 plans, one plan for the 495 and then one that looks at what if this is going to be an ongoing funding stream.
And if I had to handicap it, I'd say it's probably about 90% likely it's going to be an ongoing funding stream. That said, that's based on everything you know today. If the feds do a new transportation program, they might change the law. And, even though we thought we were lined up for 5 years, and this has happened to us, and then all of a sudden, the law changes in Congress, and all of a sudden, we've only got 3 years' worth of funding, and I got to start pulling funds from projects, and that's always not much fun, but it happens. But I think it's 90% likely this is going to be an ongoing funding source, based on everything I know today. But I like your idea of a kind of 1-year plan and then a longer-term plan.
When are you looking for guidance on how to spend the money?
Well, the longer we exchange funds out to MTC, the more time we give ourselves. So if you told me, we're going to exchange the first year, that gives me a year knowing that the next year we're going to be getting those funds back, and we'll have to have a project in line for that. We could push it back to, we'll exchange this year's, but we don't want it back for 3 years. Or the second year out. Gives us more time.
Also gives them more time to take it.
I have another question.
Ryan, are you done?
No, I think, just
I don't want to jump around.
in case I think I got your point that if we exchange with MTC, that maybe the feds could take that money back. I think once we make that agreement with MTC and they spend it, they're obligated to give it back. It's not, it's locked in by agreement.
Well, okay, I understand. But people have changed agreements before. All it does is, you talked about changing the law, and the money goes away.
Yeah, there's always an out in those things.
So are we just loaning them the money and they're going to give it back to us?
Yep.
Is that the plan?
Yep. They've done it with other rural agencies. And we've done this sort of thing before.
So how far along is the county on your park and ride in Jamestown?
They're not far enough.
It's only a
Not-
discussion item.
Oh, gosh.
And you need to make this decision in March for MTC, if I read your,
I need sidewalks in downtown Sonora.
I mean, the other option is just to do a call for projects on the 495 and see what you get. But now you're obligated to get that money obligated to a project, and that, I can tell you right now, in talking to the city and the county staff, and I'm going to talk a little bit more under reports, they're not excited about taking on any new projects right now, particularly the county with all the projects they've already got and the stormwater damage that they're dealing with, and then city staff as well is pretty, there's very limited staff there. As much as we might want to do a project, I don't think they're excited about any new projects right now at their current staffing levels.
I like the idea of a workshop. I don't think that, I'm prepared to make a decision one way or the other. I think we need to, I mean, in terms of deferring it, I'd defer it, but in terms of what kind of long-term strategy we want to pursue, I'm not there.
Right, I think that we would, at the workshop, provide you greater detail and
Sure.
hopefully some more clarity on what the factors are in those decisions.
Because, I agree with you right now. I think in terms of trying to get something done this year, we're going to be maxed out repairing everything that got busted this last winter, so,
And could get busted.
Yeah, I mean, we've got
Pardon me?
we've got.
and still could
There
get busted.
could be
Yeah,
more.
We're not done
we're
yet.
not done.
Exactly.
Or
No.
possibly not done, so.
And we've got a new
But
project
I,
too, so.
I like the idea of deferring it. And, if you want to get started on electric or zero-emission vehicles, I could go either way on that.
Okay. Ryan, looks like you got something.
Yeah, I guess I'm not totally clear on the timeline, so we could, when would we need to kind of set a date to go over priorities and do a workshop? I mean, would that wait until by that time we would know for sure, I assume, if it's going to be a 5-year program or a 1-year program. And I guess what you're asking is if we can take 50,000 of that, use it right now, and then decide later on what to do with the rest.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that's where we'd kind of look at priorities, and we'd get more information, hopefully, on, how long we can expect to receive funds. And as you suggested, perhaps have a smaller dollar amount, maybe $450,000 of the remainder, if that's all we're going to get, what we're going to do with it versus what we're going to do with the other $2 million that we might have, if it becomes a 5-year program for obligation. What I would suggest is, again, we don't have a lot of clarity on when the court case is going to work its way through, but I do know I've got more funding to make decisions on probably in May. We always do we look at our RSTP, and I think we've got at least $500,000 that's going to be available to the city and the county. I think combined, it's good for us to say what are our priorities as an agency. And so I would like to have a workshop specific on priorities, perhaps at another meeting, perhaps separate on that discussion. I think there's value in just having a focused meeting on just priorities for these funding programs. And I'd like to do that by May, frankly.
Okay. Yeah, and, I would be supportive of looking into using some of these funds for charging stations. I mean, it's something that's going to have to be done in the near future anyway, and if we are able to do it now, then all the better.
But we need to make sure that the charging stations that everybody can use them.
Yeah, that would be our intent, that it'd be the universal design.
Yeah.
So the question I have is, on the exchange, a couple of things. The 440 that would go to the MTC, I assume it comes back it would come back to us as CMAQ money. It wouldn't become, it would be
That's
less restrictive. Okay.
And you would see a funding agreement at a subsequent meeting, yeah, the funding
Right.
swap agreement.
Okay. And if we decide not to swap the money, is it one of those lose it or use it things? Or is it just stays in an account until we use it?
It is a use it or lose it. We've got time to decide how we want to use it, but the clock starts ticking.
What's the
First,
time?
you have to
what's the time?
obligate it in the year
Uh-huh.
that you have it, and when I say obligated, or program is a better way of putting it, to a project, and then you've got about 3 years to obligate it and get it spent,
Okay.
or start spending, I should say. I think on federal funds, you got 10 years
So it's not
to
a
spend it.
super short time frame, but it's not exactly a long time frame either. It's
Yeah.
kind of one of those in-betweens.
Yeah, and you tend to have to spend it in the year you said you're gonna spend it.
Is the clock started already?
No.
When does it
The
start?
only clock that's running right now is, what do you want to spend it on? The programming part. What project do you want to spend it on? That clock is running. We need to make that decision the next year.
Okay.
Now, it says in here, in your notes, that MTC would like to know by March.
That's correct. What they're hoping to do is go to their board and say, we've worked with these 3, 4, 5 rural agencies who'd like to swap funds with us, kind of a universal agreement with their board on receiving those funds, using them on projects, and then, as an agency committing to pay them back out of future revenues. They get something like $60 million a year in these funds, so it's easy for them to swap money in and out.
What would you like to do?
Anyway.
I'm going to go ahead and
Risk
make a
of losing
motion. I move that we, pardon me, authorize $50,000 to be spent on zero-emission vehicles to include the chargers, et cetera, as we've been discussing. Give, what is it, MCC?
MTC?
NTC, give the rest of the money back for, what would you recommend, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? What?
I'd recommend 2 years.
2 years,
Yeah.
okay, for 2 years. And have staff put together a work session to develop a strategic plan, mid and long-term strategic plan to spend the funds as they come in.
Second.
Public comment? All in favor?
Oh, wait.
Aye.
This would be a swap arrangement. You said give,
Exchange.
but you meant
Just
swap.
Exchange.
I just want to make sure that distinction is, yeah, okay.
For 2 years.
Yeah,
Gonna do it again.
Go ahead.
okay.
Okay. I move to direct staff or authorize staff to spend $50,000 on zero-emission vehicles to include chargers, as we've discussed with universal charging capability. Loan NTC the remainder of this year's money for 2 years, and direct staff to put together schedule a work session to put together a mid and long-term strategic plan.
Second.
A motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for clearing that up.
All right, thank you for, it's a little bit of a challenging item.
All right. Item 8, adopt resolution 596-19, authorizing the chairman to sign a 5-year lease agreement with 975 Morningstar LLC for the office space located at 975 Morningstar Drive, Suite A, Sonora, California, with rent starting at $2,467 per month.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you know, through prior discussions, the county has adopted a budget this year whereby, with some prioritization in their budget to help balance it, to reduce outside lease payments and bring some agencies that are currently renting outside space from non-county entities into county buildings. We recognize that as part of the county budget. We budgeted ourselves the potential of either paying rent at about $2,500 a month, or perhaps having to either the county or perhaps do an outside lease. We also set aside funding for improvements to a building. And we have the funding in our budget to pay leases and do some tenant improvements. We did convene a committee to look at all off-site locations. We looked at, we reviewed about 10 locations around the county. And then also walked through a couple different locations and ultimately determined that the best site for potential relocation is at 975 Morningstar Suite A in Sonora. I should back up and say that as part of the county's effort to relocate offices, they did ask us to look for alternative office space from our present location in the AN Francisco building. So that started that process of looking for alternative sites. And after all of that, we have negotiated a lease agreement with the owner of the property there at Morningstar. It's attached to your packet here. Basically, it's would include $21,000 in improvement cost to the building as our cost, which again is within our budgeted amount. It will allow us to have a good conference room that could even host some of these meetings should we want to move over there. Certainly will accommodate our technical citizen advisory committee and social service transportation advisory meetings. We're an agency that has an awful lot of meetings, so a conference space is important. There's good parking at this location. And even the owner has actually said that they'd be agreeable towards allowing us to put in a charging station there as well. So that's all good things. Again, the monthly rent is starting at $2,467 a month. There is an escalator in there, generally consistent with what you'd see for cost of living adjustments. Most of our lease agreements have those adjustments in them. It's about $1.20 per square foot. And Carlin Drivdahl has reviewed this agreement. We have 3 originals up there to be signed. The owner has signed it as well. We would recommend that you approve this lease agreement. And with that, answer any questions you have.
Okay, any questions?
So you said that the property owner has agreed to allow us to install a charging station?
They're
Would this be-
agreeable to it. It's not in here
Okay.
because the parking area is actually under separate ownership. But
Yeah,
he
that
felt
was-
there was no reason to believe that they wouldn't be agreeable towards that.
So would
He's
this
a
be
member
s-
of that association, but he's
would-
not the whole thing.
Would this be something that would be available to the public, so you could pull into that parking lot and use it, or is that yet to be
Yet to be
hammered
determined.
out? Okay.
Yeah.
I might have asked the question before, but are there moving and related costs covered in the budget?
We do have about another $20,000 left in moving cost or perhaps furniture and whatnot. We're going to have a large conference room about the size of a 2-car garage. We'll need a bigger conference table. I happen to know of where one might be. So we'd like to get some used furniture. So, yeah, we've got other costs built into our budget that we can handle. As soon as we get this agreement, we're going to work on a good checklist and just start working it. because we've got a tentative date of about May 1st to
One,
move in.
so- Okay,
And I did recently touch bases with Tracy Riggs, the CAO, and the position of the county remains the same, that they're looking at our space for other purposes, and we are solving problems for them by moving out.
I have a comment. Okay, so you stated that the building is owned by one entity and the parking lot is owned by another entity. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if we're going to use money to put a charging station on the private property of the parking lot owner, shouldn't there be some kind of concession to us?
You know, it's not part of this agreement. I just wanted to make you
Okay.
aware that that possibility exists. I think we need to, we'll have more details on how we could do that and potential concessions, you know, when then we come back with that project proposal. Right now, it's difficult to have that discussion with the association because in that area, you've got, you know, IT's over there, child services is over there, DMV's, you got a law office, and then there'll be our office, I suppose. But all those buildings are owned by different people, and that's kind of the association. This individual that we're renting from owns one building of several in there.
And then
And,
somebody else owns all the parking lot?
Well, it's kind of a jointly owned by the
Okay.
owners of the different
Oh,
buildings
good.
in there.
Okay.
And we'll just have to negotiate some of those terms on a charger at a later date.
Well, maybe we should throw it out there now.
Well, we did. We threw it out there, and they said they'd be agreeable to it, but the specifics of what they're agreeing to and what we're obligating ourselves to is yet to be
I
determined.
think what we're looking at is the property contract.
That's correct.
Okay, we need to, so, Carl? Looks like you have a question.
No,
When you get that mic, I get nervous.
I was going to move on staff recommendation.
Okay,
Second.
got a motion and second, public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Reports.
Mr. Chairman, I know some of you are trying to get out of here, so I'll try and be brief. I got a long list, so if you don't mind, I'll skim quickly. It was mentioned earlier that we met with the district director, Dan McHinney, and we are talking about a number of safety projects. I want to mention that the Groveland project, which is a crosswalk project, as well as a ADA ramp and speed-sensitive signs in the 120 area, will go to construction. I've been promised this summer, first quarter of the fiscal year.
John will be happy to hear that.
Yeah, John will be very happy to hear that. I was hoping to tell him that.
As his alternate, I'll speak.
He asked
Yep.
about it a lot. Stockton Road, we've mentioned, Hearst Ranch, we mentioned, and I did mention to Councilwoman Williams earlier today that Dan also would like to meet with the city to discuss some of those Washington Street crosswalks and improving the safety at those crosswalks. Since we didn't get the ATP grant, he'd like to have a follow-up meeting to figure out what we can do in spite of the not getting those grants.
Good.
Also, we've had a citizen request to help get Caltrans to put in some guardrail on Highway 49. It's kind of a sharp curve as you head towards Tuttletown at Rawhide Road. Apparently, they've had some cars end up going through their fence into their front yard area. Caltrans has responded with they've committed to putting in better signage, which was not acceptable to the property owner. I did get Caltrans to commit that they'll put the signage in. If there's any more cars in the driveway, they'll reconsider the guardrail without waiting
Is
the
this
normal 2
right there at
years.
the Coffers Corner, the intersection?
I'm not sure what Coffers Corner is.
Well, that's the Rawhide and
And
49.
49 to the north, yeah,
Yeah.
that corner.
Yeah.
And I think it's predominantly cars going northbound.
Yeah, they used to live there.
Yeah, I know. I learned them all when I get.
Okay, and moving right along, this is something, Carl, you'll be very interested in. We, as an agency, worked with the CRA previously to identify funding to improve the crossings of Campo Seco Road. I think some of you know that the crossing has gotten really bad with potholes. The railroad's interested in getting in there and replacing some of their ties and track. Normally, what they would come back and do, and they're obligated to do, is repair within 2 feet of their center line of their track, and usually that means just regular asphalt, which we know when they put asphalt down, you're lucky to get 5 years of decent service before it's potholed and buckling and everything else. We prefer to put in the concrete panels. We obligate about $60,000 for two crossing panels both on Campo Seco, one closer to Crooked Lane, I think, and the other one closer to Lime Kiln. Unfortunately, I made a mistake, and that is not a major collector road, which is a requirement for eligibility of those funds. So what I've proposed is a workaround with the county in that we would give them those funds for any project consistent with the eligibility requirements of the RSTP fund. In exchange, they would work with the railroad to give them the necessary funding to do the concrete panel improvements. We've done this sort of thing before with the county. Again, looking at their current situation with so many projects and so much storm damage, they were not excited about moving forward with the project. They didn't say no, but they haven't said yes yet either. So I just bring that to your attention.
So I need to talk to him.
Moving right along. Alex and I attended the California Transportation Planning Conference in San Diego on March 25th through 27th. Gregoria was there. It was a Caltrans conference that was excellent. We really got a lot out of it. Appreciate that. On the 2nd, I met with Caltrans, what we call an SB 45 meeting. I got an update on Peaceful Oak Interchange. It's still scheduled to go and get to construction in spring of 2020. Also, we talked a little bit about the Yosemite Junction project. You can see that they're doing clearing and grubbing, and that should start construction anytime now. It's already been awarded. And that's for a traffic signal with what we call high T design. We also got a complaint, not a complaint, but a gentleman from, his name's Rich Manuel. He owns Rich's Automotive up Mono Way, getting up close to the Aladdin Hotel. He's come to realize that Caltrans is looking to sell the parcel that his business is on. And it's actually a 5-acre parcel that goes up the hill and all the way over to Indian Rock Plaza. What I've negotiated, and I think he's gonna be okay with is, or he's told me he'd be okay with, is I'm gonna work with their surveyors to identify his piece there, make it a separate parcel, that he could just buy that one parcel that his business is on without buying the whole 5 acres or something.
Like a buffer zone?
Yeah, so we're working with them on that. Some follow-up actions required. City's gonna need I'll be meeting with them next Monday. I have to sign off on a time extension for the bus stop that's proposed on Stockton Road near Washington. It needs a time extension so that they can secure design exceptions from Caltrans. Caltrans has expressed a willingness to do the design exceptions, but it's about a 4-month process to formally get that approval. So they're gonna need a time extension on their funding.
What is the design exception?
Oh, this is things like the Hawk system and lane width and all kinds of, I think.
Oh,
that
so it's multiple issues.
Yes, there's several. It's hard to do a project that meets all of the Caltrans standards when you're retrofitting it into a historic community.
Sure.
So they, from day one, have kind of accepted this will be part of the process. Just for general information to the public, the deadline for applying for the TCTC Citizen at Large is March 25th. We have that, we posted that on our website as well as We did an ad in the Union Democrat giving 30 days from the ad time looking forward, consistent with the direction I received last month. And we have been working with the county. We responded to the Rawhide Bridge replacement project on highway, including a traffic signal on Highway 49. We have concerns with the design that they have. As you know, or probably know by now, the signal at Fifth Avenue went in without any crosswalks or pedestrian push buttons or protection heads. We've already gotten complaints about that. And we noticed in the signal design at Rawhide, they only have crosswalks on 2 legs of the intersection. We believe that when you're trying to accommodate all users of the road system and make walking convenient, you should have it on all 4 legs, crosswalks with ped heads. You've got a lot of plan development north of the highway. The new general plan proposes a lot of commercial northeast of that intersection, as well as she's probably a 40 or even 100 acres of single-family residential up there. Those people aren't going to want to walk like 3 legs of the intersection to get to the other side. They're going to want to walk directly across the intersection.
Where are you talking about the residential?
On that hill that's northeast of the Rawhide Bridge. There's a lot of residential and commercial in the new general plan there. So we think we need to have the appropriate
Okay.
pedestrian heads to accommodate them in the future.
Okay.
And likewise, there's commercial in the general plan for the southwest corner of Fifth and 10849. We think there's likely an interaction there between what could be a shopping center and that residential that we need to accommodate in the future.
Okay.
We know it's an interim signal, but the signal that's there right now is an interim signal. And Mike, I think it's been 18 years or something since that went in as an interim signal.
Long time.
So, and that one doesn't have any
Well,
pedestrian
they're
heads.
they are supposed to start working that this year,
Yeah.
so.
So just wanted to bring that to your attention, that we brought that to their attention. And that's it for reports on it from me.
Do you have anything to do with the signal cycling between those 2 signals? Or is that a
Not
county?
presently.
Is that a county thing? Because they are very poorly sequenced right now.
I think that would be a Caltrans thing that I could help out on.
Well, where I've seen the real problem, I mean, you've always got, that's a heavily traveled corridor, obviously. But where I've seen the problem is, especially in the morning commute, when you're going up the hill, it has taken me as many as 3 different lights to get through Fifth Avenue going up there. What happens is that you get stopped at the Rawhide light, and then you can't even move out of there because the traffic that's stopped at the Fifth Avenue light doesn't clear. If you're lucky, you get 2 cars through that light, and then you're poking your way all the way up through those 2 lights. And like I said, I've spent 3 full cycles of the light trying to get up there. He's gone.
He's gone. He's our guy.
Yeah,
He's
anyway,
over traffic.
if you could just check into that.
Yeah, Gregory and I will check into that together.
Okay. Since I'm here, I get to
Yeah, might as well make it worth a while.
bully pulpit.
And Darren, any updates on north-south connector?
Caltrans is looking at that as part of their congested corridor plan. We understand they were probably due to submit the draft plan to us for our review this month. They're at least a week or 2 behind, and we've been told they need another month. I think it's being circulated internally for an internal review before it goes external. So we're close.
Darren, any other reports?
No.
You gonna wait till 5 o'clock?
No, I'm waiting, she's writing. She's writing some notes, trying to be polite.
Carl, I know I told you an hour.
Gregoria, you're up when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Gregoria Ponce, District 10. I will make this brief. My deputy for traffic ops, Arvinder, he gave a briefing, and we did have an excellent meeting. And thank you for bringing those maps. Those were great, by the way. They really communicated a lot more, I think, than everyone in the room realized. So we're really glad you brought those. So for my items, the 1920 draft overall work program review, we did start that, just as Darren clarified, and we'll look to capture all of our comments and provide those as soon as feasible to Darren and Ms. Laura, so they can be made available to you all as well. And we're proceeding with a number of grants and processing invoices, as well as OWP amendments. So we'll continue with that and working with Darren and their office. And that's all I have.
That's all?
That's it. You guys got a letter from our director regarding some items.
Yep.
And I do believe I sent some information to it was a project report to Councilmember Garaventa. Did you
Think I got, yes.
email?
But I
Okay.
don't have it on my iPhone.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I just want to make sure, you had a question some time ago, and I wasn't sure if that detail made it to you, so I wanted to make sure to send that again.
Yeah, thanks.
You bet. That's all I have.
That's all. Okay, no additional reports? Meeting's adjourned. Have a good evening.
Thank you.